Beneath the world's most famous cities lies another, forgotten world entirely. These are the hidden subterranean realms, vast networks of tunnels and chambers that hold the untold stories of ancient civilizations. By the end of our journey, you will see human history from an entirely new perspective, discovering the incredible reasons our ancestors built entire cities underground. What drove them to carve such immense structures from the living rock, and what profound secrets did they bury there for millennia? How does our understanding of the past change when we look not up at the monuments, but down into the earth? What forgotten part of our own history would you most want to rediscover if you could? This profound duality between the earthly and the divine is etched into the very stone of our oldest myths. Across the globe, from the Greeks with their Hades to the Mesopotamians with their dark realm of Ker, the earth below was seen as the domain of powerful forces, a place of both transformation and profound mystery. To build within it was not merely an act of excavation, but a form of communion with the sacred. The ground offered more than just physical shelter from the elements or from conflict. It provided a spiritual buffer against the chaos of the world above. This is why the architecture of these spaces so often mirrors the surface, with streets, homes, and places of gathering carved deep into the rock. It was a way of bringing order to the primordial dark, of creating a familiar world within the domain of the unknown. So when we ask why cultures from the arid plains of Turkey to the lush jungles of Central America all felt this same pull downward, we find a common thread woven from human instinct. It is the universal response to a need for safety that is both physical and spiritual, a sanctuary from immediate threats and a connection to something far greater than oneself. This powerful combination of survival and belief is what gave rise to some of the most astonishing underground worlds ever discovered, the first of which redefines our very understanding of ancient urban life. A sudden hammer blow against a basement wall did not just reveal a hidden room, it unveiled an entire lost civilization. In 1963, a man in Cappadocia, Turkey, was simply renovating his home when the stone gave way, opening a portal into absolute darkness. Shining a light into the void, he saw not a simple cellar, but an endless labyrinth of tunnels and chambers descending into the earth. He had accidentally discovered the entrance to Derinkuyu, a multi-level metropolis carved entirely from soft volcanic rock. This was not a mere shelter, it was a complete city built to withstand absolute catastrophe, a place where an entire population could vanish from the surface in a matter of hours. Imagine the scene as invaders swept across the landscape, finding only empty, silent villages, completely unaware that 20,000 people were living, working, and worshipping deep beneath their feet. The engineering of Derinkuyu is a masterpiece of defensive design. Each level was a self-contained world with living quarters, storerooms, wineries, and even stables for livestock. But its true genius lay in its security. Corridors could be sealed with massive, wheel-shaped stone doors, each weighing hundreds of kilograms, rolling into place to block any pursuit. These were not simple barriers, they were impervious walls that could isolate entire sections of the city. And to sustain life so far below, the builders engineered a network of ventilation shafts, over 100 of them, which channeled fresh air from the surface down to the very deepest chambers, 5 meters underground. This ensured that even during a long siege, the air remained breathable. They dug wells that tapped into underground water sources, creating a reliable supply independent of the world above. They built churches and gathering halls, spaces for community and faith, ensuring that life, in all its complexity, could continue in the dark. The existence of such a place forces us to reconsider the nature of ancient life. Derinkuyu was not built out of mere convenience. It was a profound act of collective resilience. The people who carved this city from the rock were facing existential threats, and their solution was to create a sanctuary so complete it could function for months, perhaps even years, completely cut off. It stands as a powerful monument to the human will to survive, a community that chose to move downward to preserve its future, and this raises a haunting possibility. If one man with one swing of a hammer could find a city for 20,000, what other vast subterranean worlds remain hidden, waiting for another chance discovery to bring their stories back into the light? While Derinkuyu was a triumph of physical survival, another ancient site reveals a quest for something far more intangible. Deep beneath the Mediterranean island of Malta, the Saflieni Hypogeum is a sanctuary not from invaders, but from the limits of ordinary perception. Carved from solid Globigerina limestone over 6,000 years ago, this is one of the planet's oldest known underground temples. It is a structure that defies simple explanation, a multi-level labyrinth where the stone itself seems to hold a kind of memory. The architects did not simply dig a hole, they meticulously recreated the world above in stunning detail. Pillars, arches, and even ceiling patterns are carved to mimic the megalithic temples that stood on the surface, a deliberate act of bringing sacred architecture into the heart of the earth. This was clearly a place of immense spiritual significance, but its true mystery is not just in its form, it is in the very sound it creates. Within this silent, subterranean world, certain chambers possess an acoustic property so precise it seems impossible for a prehistoric culture to have engineered it. A deep male voice chanting at a specific resonant frequency can fill an entire chamber with a hum that vibrates through your bones. This is not a mere echo, it is a profound sonic phenomenon. Researchers have found that this specific vibration, around 110 Hz, has a unique effect on the human brain, potentially altering states of consciousness. It can quiet the language centers of the mind, fostering a shift toward visual and intuitive thought. Was this accidental, or was it the entire purpose of this hallowed space? The Hypogeum suggests a culture that understood the power of sound as a tool for spiritual journeying. It may have been a place for ritual, for healing, or for attempting to communicate with what lay beyond the visible world. The idea that people millennia before the pyramids were using architectural acoustics to explore the inner landscapes of the human mind is staggering. It transforms the Hypogeum from a simple burial complex into what might be history's first documented resonance chamber, a device built from stone and silence. This leaves us with a haunting question, not about who built it, but why. What did they hope to hear in that resonant dark, and what part of the human experience were they trying to unlock that could only be found deep beneath the ground? The silent resonance of Malta's Hypogeum gives way to a far grander and more famous subterranean mystery. Beneath the sun-baked sands of the Giza Plateau, a hidden world lies in wait. While the pyramids have captivated humanity for millennia, they are merely the most visible part of an ancient complex, the tip of a vast and mostly unexplored iceberg. The real story of Giza may not be written in the towering limestone blocks, but in the darkness deep below them. Advanced technologies like ground-penetrating radar have begun to map this underworld, revealing a startling truth: the plateau is not solid ground. It is honeycombed with tunnels, shafts, and inexplicable voids. One of the most compelling of these anomalies is a large, seemingly man-made chamber detected deep beneath the pores of the Great Sphinx. This is not an isolated space. evidence suggests a potential network, a subterranean web that may physically link the Great Pyramids themselves. For mainstream Egyptology, these spaces are deeply symbolic. They likely represent the Duat, the intricate Egyptian underworld, a realm of trials and transformation that the soul of the pharaoh had to navigate after death. The tunnels could have served as initiatory pathways where priests underwent sacred rituals to emerge spiritually reborn. Yet other interpretations push the boundaries of conventional history. Some researchers propose these sealed chambers could be the fabled Hall of Records, a repository containing the lost knowledge of a sophisticated precursor civilization. The very existence of this sprawling underground complex forces a profound question. Did the ancient Egyptians simply build impressive tombs, or were they constructing a massive, three-dimensional model of their entire cosmology, with the pyramids as the stars and the tunnels below as the underworld river? Every new scan, every robotic camera sent into a narrow shaft, brings us closer to an answer. The greatest treasures of the pharaohs may not be gold and jewels, but the architectural blueprints to the afterlife itself, still hidden in the dark, daring us to look deeper. The sprawling city of Rome rests upon its own history, a physical palimpsest where each era is built directly upon the last. But beneath the grand forums and imperial palaces lies a different kind of city, a silent city of the dead that stretches for an estimated 600 miles. These are the Roman catacombs, a labyrinthine network where early Christians, Jewish communities, and other pagan Romans laid their loved ones to rest. Far from being secret hideouts for the living, these were vast, organized, and completely legal cemeteries. In a city where land was precious and burial within the walls was forbidden, the solution was to go down. The soft, volcanic tufa rock beneath the city was perfect for excavation, allowing communities to carve out these immense subterranean highways dedicated entirely to memory. To walk through the catacombs of Domitilla or Calixtus today is to wander through an art gallery of ancient hope. The rough walls are adorned with some of the earliest Christian symbols ever discovered. Here you find the simple sketch of a fish, a secret sign of faith, or the image of the Good Shepherd carrying a lamb, a powerful representation of salvation and care. These were not expressions of despair, but declarations of belief in resurrection and eternal life. In times of persecution, these quiet, hallowed tunnels also became temporary places of worship and pilgrimage, where the faithful could gather in relative safety to honor their martyrs. Catacombs reveal a profound cultural duality. Above ground, Rome was a world of imperial power and pagan gods, a city of the living built for glory and conquest. Below, it was a city of the soul, a sacred landscape where a growing spiritual movement quietly prepared for a different kind of eternity. This hidden world did not challenge the empire above so much as it coexisted with it, a silent testament to a faith that was patiently waiting to emerge from the darkness. High in the Andes, the stone citadel of Machu Picchu clings to the misty peaks, a breathtaking monument to Inca engineering. Yet for all its grandeur in the sunlight, its true genius extends into the shadows of the mountain itself. The Incas did not simply build upon the land, they wove their architecture into its very fabric, mastering the world below with the same skill they applied to the world above. This mastery is visible in the intricate channels that still carry water through the city, a subterranean network of hydraulic engineering that prevented erosion and supplied ritual baths. But beyond these practical feats lies a deeper purpose, one that connects the living city directly to the realm of the ancestors. Tucked away from the main plazas, tombs were carved directly into the bedrock, reflecting a belief that the earth was not a barrier but a sacred conduit. The most profound example of this is the Temple of the Moon, a hidden complex of caves and altars concealed within a vast cavern. Here, away from the sun, the air is thick with silence and history. Researchers believe this was a site of royal mummification, a place where the line between the physical world and the spiritual underworld grew thin. For the Incas, caves were not just hollow spaces, they were pacarinas, revered as points of origin and portals to other realms. To build within them was to engage directly with the foundational powers of the universe. This underground dimension was not an afterthought, it was the spiritual anchor of the entire citadel. It shows us that the Incas' architectural triumph was holistic, a complete integration of the heavens, the earth we walk on, and the sacred world beneath our feet. Their legacy is a reminder that the most enduring structures are those that honor all layers of existence, both seen and unseen. The journey from the sacred peaks of the Andes leads us to another city carved from the very heart of the earth, a place where the boundary between nature and architecture dissolves entirely. In the desert of Jordan, the rose-red city of Petra reveals its true genius not in the famous facades, but in the hidden world of water and rock that made its existence possible. The approach to the city is through the Siq, a spectacular natural canyon so narrow and deep that the sky becomes a thin, winding ribbon of blue far above. This was far more than a simple road. It was a sacred processional way, designed to inspire awe and mark the transition from the outer world into the Nabatean kingdom. But its true function was one of astonishing foresight. The towering cliffs of the Siq were not merely walls, they were part of a city-wide water distribution system. The Nabateans carved channels directly into the rock faces, lining them with waterproof cement to capture every precious drop of winter rainfall. They built dams and diversion tunnels to control flash floods, transforming a potentially deadly natural corridor into a lifeline. This was hydraulic engineering on a monumental scale, a subterranean network that turned a desert into a garden. Beyond the breathtaking vista of the treasury, the city unfolds into a labyrinth of man-made caves and chambers. One of the most enigmatic is the structure known as the columbarium. Its interior walls are covered with hundreds of small, meticulously carved niches, a puzzling sight that has fueled debate for generations. Were these shelves for ceremonial urns, compartments for sacred scrolls, or perhaps something entirely different, related to a ritual practice we no longer understand? The silence of the chamber offers no easy answers. This hidden, functional side of Petra challenges the common perception of it as merely a city of ornate tombs. It was a living, breathing metropolis that thrived because its builders mastered the world beneath their feet. They did not just build with stone, they built with the flow of water itself, creating a hidden circulatory system that allowed civilization to flourish in one of the most arid landscapes on Earth. The legacy of Petra is a powerful reminder that the greatest human achievements are often the ones you cannot see, the quiet, enduring infrastructure that gives life to everything above. The ancient impulse to build downward did not vanish with the end of the classical age. It simply evolved, finding new expression in the shadow of 20th century geopolitics. For centuries, a secret city lay hidden beneath the bustling streets of Beijing, a sprawling labyrinth known as Dixia Cheng. What began as a network of ancient storage cellars and old bomb shelters was transformed during a period of global tension into one of the most ambitious subterranean projects in human history. This was not a place of ritual or royal tombs, but a practical, desperate fortress for an entire metropolis. The scale was almost beyond comprehension, a network of tunnels and chambers designed to shelter up to 6 million people from the unimaginable. Within this man-made cavern, an entire society was planned. There were hospitals ready to treat the injured, classrooms where children could continue their lessons, and even theaters and a roller skating rink intended to maintain morale during a long confinement. This was a modern attempt to replicate the full function of a surface city, but buried deep underground for its own preservation. Ventilation shafts were disguised as part of the city's normal landscape, and hidden entrances were tucked away in shops and homes, allowing the population to vanish from the streets in a matter of hours. Today, large sections of this underground city are sealed off, their heavy steel doors closed for good. Other parts have been repurposed into subterranean shopping centers or residential basements, the original intent fading from memory. Yet the existence of Dixia Cheng stands as a stark, concrete testament to a very human truth. The same instinct that drove the builders of Derinkuyu to carve shelters from volcanic rock, the same desire for sanctuary that defined the Roman catacombs, found a new and chilling form in the modern era. It shows us that the shape of our fear and our response to it can literally reshape the world beneath our feet, creating modern subterranean worlds with their own complex and sobering histories. This hidden city is not ancient, but it is already a relic, a monument to a time when the greatest threat to civilization was thought to come not from the ground, but from the sky. From the sealed corridors of a modern Beijing to the sacred tunnels of a medieval military order, the story continues. Across Europe, the shadow of the Knights Templar stretches not just across history, but deep into the earth itself. This powerful and wealthy order of warrior monks did not only build formidable castles and churches, they were also masters of the world beneath them. A web of legends and physical evidence points to their use of elaborate underground passages, often connecting their command centers, fortifications, and places of worship. These were not just simple escape routes. They formed a hidden circulatory system for the entire order, allowing for the secure and secret movement of personnel, messages, and most famously, their vast treasure. Imagine a Templar knight moving from a fortified commandery to a secluded chapel entirely unseen, passing through a stone doorway concealed behind a tapestry, descending into a cool, dark passage lit only by torchlight. This network offered a tactical advantage that was almost supernatural to their enemies, creating an aura of the Templars being everywhere and nowhere at once. But the purpose of these tunnels ran far deeper than mere security. For an order steeped in esoteric knowledge and ritual, the very act of moving underground was deeply symbolic. Their initiation ceremonies were said to involve profound spiritual trials, a journey through metaphorical darkness in search of divine light. To physically walk through a subterranean passage, from a place of worldly power to a space of sacred contemplation, would have made that abstract journey terrifyingly real. It was an architectural metaphor for the soul's own path. The most enduring rumors speak of tunnels beneath the Temple Mount in Jerusalem, the order's namesake, a place they excavated for years. What they might have found there, and what secrets they subsequently guarded in their European strongholds, is a mystery that has fueled speculation for centuries. While many stories are entangled with myth, the persistent existence of these subterranean links connects the raw military prowess of the Middle Ages with an enduring underground mystery. It suggests that for the Templars, true power was not only held in the towering stone of their castles, but also in the whispered secrets of the passages that lay hidden below. While empires built temples and tombs, another civilization solved a far more fundamental problem with an answer that flowed in the dark. The deserts of ancient Persia conceal one of humanity's most brilliant and enduring inventions, the Qanat. This was not a grand monument meant for the eyes of gods or kings, but a hidden lifeline that made civilization possible in a land of extreme heat and little rain. The principle was one of profound simplicity and immense labor. At the foot of a mountain where water naturally seeped into the ground, workers would dig a mother well down to the water table. From there, they began the back-breaking work of carving a gently sloping tunnel, just large enough for a single person to crawl through, that would carry this water for dozens of miles out to the arid plains and thirsty cities. The slope was the key, a precise, gradual descent that used gravity alone to guide the water on its long journey, with no need for pumps or external power. But the true mark of their engineering genius appears on the surface above these hidden rivers. At regular intervals, exactly every 20 to 30 meters, the builders dug vertical shafts straight down from the desert floor to meet the tunnel below. These shafts served a dual purpose, providing vital air vents to keep the water fresh and allowing maintenance crews to climb down and clear the tunnel of silt and debris. From the air, these lines of circular access holes look like a string of craters or a colony of giant ants, marching in perfectly straight lines across the landscape. This hidden network was the circulatory system of an entire empire. It allowed agriculture to flourish in the desert, supporting the vast gardens and sophisticated farming that powered the Achaemenid and later Persian empires. A single Qanat could sustain a city, and Persia eventually built tens of thousands of them, creating a cumulative length of underground channels that could stretch around the globe. The Qanat did not just deliver water, it fundamentally reshaped human society, enabling settlements and cultures to thrive in places that would otherwise have been uninhabitable. This was a technology of pure survival, an innovation so effective it spread along the Silk Road to influence water management from North Africa to Western China. It forces us to reconsider where true power lies in a civilization. The most critical infrastructure was not always the most visible. While palaces rose and fell, these silent, life-giving rivers flowed steadily beneath the sand, a timeless reminder that the greatest marvels are often the ones we never see. Deep within the humid jungles of Central America, the Maya saw the earth not as a solid foundation, but as a living, breathing entity. For them, a cave was not merely a hole in the ground, it was a sacred portal, a mouth leading directly into Xibalba, the layered and labyrinthine underworld. This was not a place of eternal punishment, but a realm of powerful gods and ancestral spirits, a source of both creation and destruction. The survival of the world above, the cycles of rain, the growth of maize, and the very order of time were believed to depend on maintaining a delicate balance with the powers that resided below. This profound belief turned entire cave systems into some of the most significant religious spaces in the ancient world. The immense cavern known as Acton Tunishil Muknal in Belize, often called the Cave of the Stone Sepulchre, serves as a stunning example. To reach its inner chambers, one must wade through underground rivers and navigate narrow, water-filled passages, a physical journey that mirrors the spiritual descent into the underworld. Deep inside, the silence is absolute, broken only by the drip of water filtering through the limestone. Here, in halls untouched by sunlight for centuries, the Maya conducted elaborate ceremonies. Archaeologists have discovered pristine offerings left exactly as they were placed over 1,000 years ago. Exquisitely painted pottery, intricately carved jade ornaments, and grinding stones used to prepare ritual foods lie scattered around ancient altars, their presence a direct link to the people who came here to plead with the gods. The most poignant findings, however, are the skeletal remains of individuals studied with great care by researchers. These are not markers of conflict, but are understood by scholars as the most profound offerings possible within the Maya worldview. The act was seen as the ultimate sacrifice, a desperate attempt to appease the lords of Xibalba and ensure the continuation of life for the entire community. It was a solemn transaction with the divine, where the most valuable gift was human life itself, given in the belief that it would nourish the cosmos. This practice reveals a cosmology where the boundaries between life and death, the human and the divine, were fluid and required constant, active maintenance. The power to command the sun to rise and the rains to fall was not found in the sun-drenched plazas, but in the profound darkness of these sacred caves. This challenges our modern perspective entirely. We often imagine ancient power emanating from towering pyramids, but for the Maya, true power flowed in the opposite direction. The most critical rituals, the ones that sustained their entire civilization, were performed in the terrifying and beautiful silence of the underworld. The same soft volcanic rock that concealed entire cities also offered a different kind of sanctuary, one built not for bodies but for souls. Scattered throughout Cappadocia's surreal landscape, hidden within the towering fairy chimneys and rolling hills, are the forgotten monasteries of Byzantine monks. These hermits sought a radical separation from the world, and they found it by carving their devotion directly into the stone. They created not just simple cells, but entire spiritual complexes complete with churches, living quarters, communal dining halls, and even wine presses for their sacramental need. The Gurim Open-Air Museum is perhaps the most stunning example, a hidden theological school where every wall became a page of a sacred text. Step inside the dark church, and the gloom is suddenly illuminated by brilliantly colored frescoes that have survived for nearly 1,000 years. Scenes from the Bible unfold across the curved ceilings and walls, their vibrant blues and golds speaking of a faith that sought to bring the divine light into the heart of the earth. This art was more than decoration. It was a form of worship and a tool for teaching, a visual Bible for a community that had turned its back on the surface world. The very isolation that made these places perfect for contemplation also served to protect them. While the Byzantine Empire was periodically convulsed by iconoclastic movements that sought to destroy religious imagery, these underground galleries remained untouched. The vibrant art was preserved in a time capsule of stone, safe from the conflicts raging far above. The act of carving these spaces was itself a spiritual practice, a daily meditation of hammer and chisel that transformed raw, chaotic rock into an ordered house of God. These monasteries present a powerful counterpoint to the defensive fear that built Derinkuyu. Here, the descent underground was a voluntary journey toward enlightenment, a deliberate embrace of darkness to find a more profound light. It reveals the underground as a canvas for the human spirit, a place where art and faith could flourish in perfect, protected silence. While the desert tunnels of Persia channeled life-giving water to the surface, another empire perfected the art of storing it in the dark. The survival of Constantinople, a city perpetually under threat, hinged on an invisible network of subterranean reservoirs. This was not merely a matter of convenience, but the very cornerstone of its legendary defenses. During a prolonged siege, an army could camp outside the mighty Theodosian walls for years, yet the city within would continue to thrive, its public fountains flowing and its bathhouses steaming, all thanks to the hundreds of hidden cisterns carved deep beneath its streets. The most magnificent of these, the Basilica Cistern, feels less like a utility and more like a sunken palace. To descend into its cool, echoing vastness is to step into an upside-down cathedral. 336 marble columns, many salvaged from older Roman temples, rise from the still, dark water to support a cavernous brick ceiling that seems to stretch into infinity. Reflected in the water, the columns create a perfect symmetry, a forest of stone that held not trees, but 80,000 cubic meters of fresh water, enough to sustain the city for weeks. Yet this breathtaking space was just one link in a colossal chain. A sprawling network of aqueducts, including the monumental Valens Aqueduct, acted as the city's arteries, channeling water from forested hills over 100 kilometers away. But the cisterns were its heart, a pulsating system that collected this flow during times of peace and pumped life throughout the city during times of crisis. Smaller neighborhood cisterns ensured that no citizen was far from a source of fresh water, making the entire urban landscape resilient. This was hydraulic engineering as a grand strategic weapon, a silent, subterranean answer to the most fundamental form of warfare, the siege. The genius of Constantinople was not just in its visible walls and golden domes, but in this profound understanding that true power lay in controlling what lay beneath. It forces us to ask how many other great cities owed their unshakable permanence not to the monuments we celebrate, but to the quiet, hidden systems that sustained them from the shadows. Beneath the very streets where Roman legions marched and senators debated, an entirely different spiritual reality was taking root in the dark. In the hidden corners of the empire, from the damp cellars of Londinium to the sun-baked grottos of Syria, followers of the god Mithras gathered in clandestine temples known as Mithraea. These were not grand public basilicas, but intimate, cave-like spaces deliberately constructed to be dark, secluded, and symbolically charged. To step into a Mithraeum was to leave the familiar world behind and enter a microcosm of the universe itself. The air would have been thick with the smell of earth and burning lamp oil, the only light flickering across a central scene that was the heart of their entire faith. In every single temple, practitioners encountered a stunning depiction of the god Mithras in the act of slaying a cosmic bull. This was far more than a simple myth. It was a complex allegory carved in stone, rich with astrological symbolism that mapped the soul's journey. Each element, from the scorpion to the serpent to the dog, represented celestial forces, telling a story of death, renewal, and the sacred order of the cosmos. This was a mystery religion, meaning its deepest truths were reserved for initiates who underwent a rigorous process of trials and learning. The path was open only to men, and it involved ascending through 7 grades of initiation, each one associated with a different planet. The ceremonies were designed to test one's resolve and impart secret knowledge, with the underground setting itself playing a crucial role. The physical descent into the Mithraeum mirrored the initiate's spiritual descent into the mysteries, a symbolic death of the old self before emerging reborn with a new understanding. The profound silence and separation from the world above made the experience intensely personal and transformative. The sheer number of these temples discovered across the empire reveals a powerful spiritual undercurrent flowing just beneath the surface of official Roman religion. It speaks to a deep, universal human yearning for direct, personal connection with the divine, for a sense of purpose that grand public rituals could not always fulfill. What secrets did these men whisper in the torchlight? What profound realizations did they carry back into the sunlight? The enduring mystery of the Mithraic cult is not just what they believed, but how a faith that built its sanctuaries in the shadows managed to capture the hearts of so many across the vast expanse of the Roman world. The whispers of Mithraic mysteries fade into an even older story, one told by the first great historians of the ancient world. Herodotus and Strabo stood in awe before an Egyptian marvel they claimed dwarfed the pyramids, a structure of such impossible scale and complexity it was known simply as the Labyrinth. This was not a single building, but a sprawling complex of thousands of rooms, halls, and courtyards, a vast administrative and religious center believed to lie near the Pyramid of Amenemhat III at Hawara. The Greek writers described a place where one could walk for days and still not traverse all its passages, a man-made maze designed to humble any who entered. Today, the surface is a desolate plain of shattered stone, the grand upper levels long since quarried away. It is a landscape that suggests total loss. Yet beneath that sand, modern technology hints at a different truth. Satellite surveys and ground-penetrating radar have detected startling anomalies, the ghostly imprint of what appears to be a massive grid-like structure buried deep underground. The data suggests a subterranean network of epic proportions, a hidden labyrinth preserved in the dry, dark earth. The purpose of such a place sparks the imagination. Was it the beating heart of Egyptian bureaucracy, where every nome and province had its own dedicated hall? Could it have been a grand funerary temple for the pharaoh, a monumental house for his soul? Or does the legend point to something even more profound, a repository designed to hold the collective knowledge of a civilization, a library of the world before the Great Library of Alexandria? The search for this lost world is one of archaeology's most tantalizing quests. Finding it would be more than just uncovering ruins. It would be opening a door into the operational mind of ancient Egypt, revealing how they governed, worshipped, and preserved their understanding of the universe. This is not a search for a single tomb, but for an entire buried city of purpose, a subterranean world whose rediscovery could fundamentally rewrite everything we thought we knew about the ambition of the pharaohs. High in the arid mesas of the American Southwest, a different kind of subterranean world reveals itself, not as a place of hiding, but as the very center of existence. The ancestral Pueblones, often called the Anasazi, are famous for their breathtaking cliff dwellings at places like Mesa Verde, villages seemingly suspended between earth and sky. Yet to truly understand their culture, one must look down into the quiet, circular spaces known as Kivas. These were not merely rooms, but profound architectural symbols representing the people's own origin story and their enduring connection to the world below. Entering a kiva was a ritual in itself. You would not walk through a door, but descend a ladder through a single opening in the roof, leaving the bright desert sun behind and stepping into a realm of cool, shadowed earth. This physical act of climbing down was a reenactment of their deepest belief, the mythic emergence of their ancestors from a prior, subterranean world into this one. The kiva was a deliberate recreation of that primordial space, a place to maintain a sacred link to the point of their own creation. Within these chambers, the entire life of the community unfolded. Political leaders gathered to make decisions that would guide the village. Elders shared the stories and histories that bound the people together. And in ceremonies, the rhythmic beat of drums and the cadence of chants would fill the enclosed space, the sound waves shaped by the perfect circularity and earthen materials to create an intimate, resonant atmosphere. This was a space designed not for echo, but for absorption, for pulling sound into the collective experience of the group. The scale of this architectural vision is fully realized in the great kivas, like the one at Kettle. These were not private chambers, but colossal subterranean amphitheaters capable of hosting hundreds of people. Their construction displays a mastery of engineering and a deep understanding of communal psychology. Massive stone pillars supported a heavy roof that has long since vanished, while niches and vaults in the walls likely held sacred objects or marked significant ceremonial positions. The sheer size of these structures tells us that the underground was not a peripheral or secret place for the ancestral Pueblones. It was the central stage for their most important collective acts. The kiva stands as a powerful testament to a world view where the earth was not a barrier but a source. It was the place from which they came and the place to which they returned for wisdom, order, and connection. In the silence of a restored kiva today, one can almost feel the enduring presence of a community that knew its identity was rooted as deeply in the ground below as it was in the towering cliffs above. Beneath the stone grandeur of a medieval castle, the true test of its strength was often hidden in the cold, damp earth. While knights patrolled the ramparts and nobles feasted in the Great Hall, a parallel world of shadow and strategy existed underground, a labyrinth of passages that meant the difference between survival and surrender. These were not mere basements, but critical components of a castle's nervous system. A secret tunnel might lead from the keep to a hidden exit far beyond the walls, a last resort for the lord and his family if the inner bailey fell. Other passages connected distant towers, allowing defenders to reinforce a besieged section without exposing themselves to archers on the battlefield. Imagine the scene during an attack as enemy soldiers massed at the gates, completely unaware that a company of armed men was moving silently beneath their feet, preparing to burst from a concealed sally port and strike their flank. This was psychological warfare carved from rock. The lowest levels of the castle, the dungeons, served a dual purpose. They were places of confinement, certainly, but their thick, windowless walls also made them the most secure storerooms for the castle's most vital supplies, especially during a long siege. Grain, salted meat, and weaponry were kept safe here, protected from fire and bombardment. In some castles, the deepest dungeon, known as an oubliette, was a pit so isolated its name came from the French word for forgetting. While these spaces evoke a somber history, their primary function in a crisis was defensive. They could become a final redoubt, a fortified position where defenders could make a last stand. To walk these passages today is to feel the chilling pragmatism of the medieval mind. The air is still and heavy, the walls rough-hewn and cold to the touch. You are tracing the routes of both desperation and cunning, a tangible link to an era where security was measured in stone and shadow. This hidden architecture reveals that a castle's power was not just in its towering presence, but in its deep, dark roots, a masterful use of the underground that turned the very ground beneath an attacker's feet into a weapon. Long before Rome laid its foundations, the Etruscans were building a different kind of city, one intended not for the living, but for the eternal. They carved their necropolises from the same soft volcanic tuff that Cappadocia's monks would later use, but with a purpose that was uniquely their own. Walking through the Dixia necropolis at Cerveteri is an uncanny experience, like stepping into a town where the residents are perpetually absent. This is not a somber graveyard, but a true city of the dead, complete with defined streets, central squares, and neighborhoods of rounded tombs that resemble ancient, earth-covered huts. Each tumulus is not a simple mound, but a home, with a doorway leading into a multi-room dwelling carved from the living rock. Inside, the silence is profound, but the walls speak volumes. The Etruscans did not simply inter their loved ones, they furnished these subterranean houses for a continued existence. Stone benches are carved to look like wooden couches, with detailed pillows still seeming to indent the surface. Stone chairs and tables stand ready for a feast, and the walls are alive with vibrant frescoes depicting banquets, dancers, and athletic games. These scenes are not of mourning, but of celebration, a vivid portrayal of a life that was believed to continue with joy and abundance beyond the veil. This meticulous recreation reveals a cosmology where the boundary between life and death was porous, a transition, not an end. The tomb was a portal to the next world, and by replicating the comforts and social structures of the world above, the living ensured the dead would want for nothing. The possessions left behind, from intricate jewelry to pottery and bronze mirrors, were not mere offerings but functional items for the departed to use. This practice gives us an unparalleled window into Etruscan daily life, preserving details of their domestic world that have long since vanished from the surface. Their entire philosophy is etched into these chambers, a powerful statement that to build for eternity, one must first build a home. Even the most brutal desert heat could be defied with a simple principle, the stable chill of the earth itself. In the scorching expanses of ancient Persia, engineers perfected a form of underground magic, the yakchul. These were not merely cellars, but sophisticated subterranean refrigerators, domed structures that rose from the sand like giant, elegant beehives. Their genius lay in a passive cooling system so effective it could preserve ice through the fiercest summer. The process began in the cold months, when ice was harvested from nearby mountains or frozen in shallow, shaded pools. This precious cargo was then transported and packed into a deep, central pit buried within the yakchul's core. The structure itself was a marvel of material science, built from a special mortar called saruj, a mix of sand, clay, egg whites, lime, and goat hair that was remarkably resistant to heat transfer. Its massive walls provided immense insulation, while the tall, conical dome helped hot air rise and escape. Most ingeniously, many yakchuls featured badgers, the ancient Persian wind catchers, which would funnel the prevailing desert breezes down into the chamber, where they were cooled by the stored ice before circulating back out. This constant, passive ventilation created a self-sustaining microclimate. The temperature inside could be dozens of degrees cooler than the blazing world outside, allowing not just for ice storage, but for preserving food, medicine, and even creating chilled desserts and drinks for royal tables. This technology, dating back over 2,400 years, transforms the desert from a place of scarcity to one of sophisticated comfort. It represents a profound dialogue with the environment, an understanding that the solution to an extreme climate was not to fight it with force, but to harness the quiet, constant truths hidden just beneath the surface. The yakchul stands as a testament to a civilization that looked at a barren landscape and saw not limitation, but possibility, discovering that the key to coolness in a world of fire was always waiting in the dark, patient earth below. Beneath the elegant boulevards and grand cafes of the City of Light, the very ground is a hollow echo of its own past. The Paris catacombs are a shadow realm where the city's glittering history is supported by a foundation of bone and forgotten stone. This began not as a tomb, but as a quarry, the source of the pale limestone that built Paris itself. For centuries, workers carved out the blocks that would become the Louvre and Notre Dame, leaving behind a 300-kilometer maze of empty galleries. By the late 18th century, this created a crisis above and below. The city's cemeteries were overflowing, creating unbearable conditions for the living, while the abandoned quarries threatened to collapse entire neighborhoods into the void. The solution was as macabre as it was practical. In a monumental effort that lasted for years, the bones from the overcrowded churchyards were carefully transferred underground. But this was not a haphazard dumping ground. What visitors see today is a carefully curated ossuary, a memorial where the remains of over 6 million individuals were arranged with a strange and solemn artistry. Skulls and femurs are stacked into neat, geometric walls, creating patterns of dark sockets and pale curves that stretch into the gloom. Plaques marking the original parish cemeteries are set into these walls of bone, a final, respectful record of the communities they once formed. This public section is a place of quiet reflection, a city for the departed built from the materials that once built the city for the living. Yet this sanctioned path is only a tiny fraction of the true underground world. Beyond the locked gates and official entrances lies the real labyrinth, a domain known to a secretive subculture of urban explorers called the cataphiles. These modern adventurers slip into the darkness to find a Paris untouched by time or tourism. In these forbidden zones, they discover hidden rooms that have become galleries for intricate sculptures carved directly from the stone. They find fully equipped bars, their walls covered in murals, and even clandestine cinemas with projector screens and rows of seats, all built in absolute secrecy. Some of these spaces are the work of underground artistic collectives, while others hint at the gatherings of more mysterious societies. This hidden network is a living, breathing counterculture, a silent rebellion against the ordered world above. It is a testament to the enduring human need for spaces beyond the mainstream, for creation and community that exist outside the rules. The catacombs are therefore far more than a resting place. They are a physical archive of the city's entire existence, holding both the bones that built its body and the rebellious spirit that gives it a soul, a hidden world of memory and mystery lying in wait just a few steps beneath the bustling streets. The immense stone heads of the Olmecs stare out from the jungle with a silent, ancient power, but their true legacy may be written in the mountains they held sacred. At the site of Chalcatzingo, the rock face itself becomes a canvas for a profound spiritual idea. Here, elaborate reliefs show powerful rulers not standing in triumph, but in the very act of emerging from the gaping mouths of stylized caves, often depicted as supernatural creatures. This is not a simple portrait, it is a declaration of divine origin. The ruler is shown transitioning from the dark, fertile realm of the earth into the world of light and people, his authority flowing directly from a connection to the spirit world below. This imagery established a powerful theme that would echo for millennia in Mesoamerica, the leader as a shamanic figure who could move between worlds. The Olmec relationship with the underground was not only symbolic, it was intensely practical. They were master hydrologists who engineered sophisticated drainage systems and carved ritual chambers deep into the earth, spaces where they could physically interact with the powers they revered. For them, water was not just a resource, it was a sacred substance intrinsically linked to the underworld and the very process of creation. Caves were understood as the wombs of the earth, places of emergence and portals for spiritual travel. By controlling the flow of water through these subterranean spaces, they were performing a form of cosmic maintenance, ensuring the balance of the world above. This deep, foundational belief in the generative power of the earth below shaped everything they built and believed, creating a subterranean spiritual tradition that would fundamentally define the cultures that followed, from the Maya to the Aztecs. The Olmecs teach us that the first great civilization of the region did not just live on the land, they lived with it, understanding that the most vital forces, both physical and divine, originated in the profound darkness beneath their feet. The elegant Georgian architecture of Edinburgh's new town presents a face of enlightenment and order, but just a short walk away, beneath the cobblestones of the old town, an entire world was sealed in darkness. When the South Bridge was completed in the late 1700s, its 19 stone arches contained within them a series of chambered vaults, designed as dry storage for the businesses operating on the bridge above. This practical solution, however, held a fatal flaw. The construction was rushed, the mortar was poor, and the vaults were never properly waterproofed. Within just a few decades, relentless damp and a complete lack of ventilation made them uninhabitable for their original purpose. The businesses moved out, and the city's most desperate residents moved in. These abandoned chambers became a subterranean slum, a hidden city within a city where poverty was forced underground. In these perpetually cold, dripping spaces, entire families lived in squalor, their world defined by the constant chill of the stone and the pervasive smell of mildew. The lack of sunlight and fresh air meant illness was rampant, and the very architecture seemed to conspire against human well-being. This forgotten underbelly also became a haven for illicit activities, a place where crime could flourish away from the watchful eyes of the city guard. The contrast between the world above and the world below could not have been more stark. On the surface, Edinburgh was a beacon of philosophy, science, and progress. Below, it was a realm of hardship and survival. Today, the preserved vaults offer a deeply unsettling glimpse into this forgotten chapter. The air is still heavy and cold, the walls are slick with moisture, and the silence feels thick and absorbing. It is this palpable atmosphere that has fueled countless reports of paranormal activity. Visitors and guides alike speak of sudden drops in temperature, of feeling an unseen hand, or of fleeting shadows that vanish when looked at directly. Some chambers are said to hold a palpable sense of sorrow or a lingering, oppressive energy. Whether one believes in ghosts or not, the emotional weight of the place is undeniable. The stone seems to have absorbed the memory of the suffering that occurred there. The vaults do not just tell a story of ghosts, they tell a story of people, of the individuals who were pushed to the very margins of society and forced to live in the shadows of a city that prided itself on light and reason. They stand as a sobering monument to the hidden costs of urban progress, a stark reminder that for every grand achievement above ground, there is often a parallel history written in the cold, dark stone below. The stone heads of the Olmecs and the damp vaults of Edinburgh speak to a relationship with the earth that is both spiritual and pragmatic, but no civilization perfected this duality quite like the Khmer. While the soaring towers of Angkor Wat capture every gaze, the true marvel of the empire lay hidden in the ground beneath its feet. This was not a city of tunnels for people, but a city of channels for water, a subterranean circulatory system that gave life to one of the most sophisticated societies of the ancient world. The Khmer faced a monumental challenge, the intense seasonal monsoons that could bring devastating floods, followed by a long, punishing dry season. Their solution was a landscape-scale engineering project of breathtaking ambition. They constructed vast, man-made reservoirs called barrays, so immense they were essentially inland seas, alongside a complex web of canals and underground channels that crisscrossed the entire region. This network acted like a giant hydraulic heart. During the rainy season, it would capture and divert the floodwaters, preventing destruction. Then, throughout the dry months, it would slowly release this stored water, feeding a sprawling irrigation system that turned the jungle into a fertile, managed farm capable of supporting a population well over 1 million people. The temples we admire today were merely the glittering pinnacles of this hidden infrastructure. Recent LiDAR surveys, which use lasers to map the ground beneath the forest canopy, have revealed the staggering truth. The entire area was a single, vast, engineered machine. The scans show the ghostly outlines of forgotten canals, field systems, and even complete towns, all integrated into this grand design. The Khmer's genius was their understanding that to control the land above, they first had to master the flow of water below. Their greatest power was not just in the stone they carved, but in the silent, life-giving rivers they directed through the earth. This forces us to reconsider what we mean by a great city. Was Angkor its temples, or was it this incredible, hidden network that made the temples possible? The legacy of the Khmer is a profound lesson in looking beyond the monuments, reminding us that the foundations of civilization are often buried, quietly sustaining the world we see. The word troglodyte has long been used as an insult, implying a primitive existence, but the truth behind these communities is one of profound ingenuity and comfort. In the sun-scorched landscape of southern Tunisia, the town of Matmata presents a surprising sight. From the surface, the earth appears mostly flat, marked only by large circular craters. But step to the edge and you look down into a central courtyard, the heart of a multi-level home carved entirely underground. These are not dark, damp holes. They are spacious, whitewashed dwellings where rooms branch off from the central sunken courtyard, maintaining a cool and stable temperature even as the desert heat soars above. This architectural wisdom is mirrored half a world away on China's lowest plateau, where entire cities have been carved into the soft, yellowish earth. Here, families live in elaborately appointed cave homes known as yaodongs that can stretch several rooms deep into the hillside. These are often beautifully furnished with arched doorways, modern amenities, and intricate designs cut directly into the walls. The earth itself acts as natural insulation, keeping the interior warm in the bitter winter and refreshingly cool during the summer. This is not a life of hardship, but one of brilliant environmental adaptation. These traditions challenge our most basic assumptions about shelter. They prove that moving underground is not a retreat from civilization, but a sustainable and deeply intelligent way of building a community. The enduring legacy of troglodyte cultures around the globe forces a simple but powerful question. In our pursuit of ever taller skyscrapers, have we overlooked the quiet, enduring comfort and wisdom of living within the earth itself? The Stone of Matara holds a memory that spans nearly 10,000 years. This ancient city in southern Italy is not built upon the land, but directly within it, its very fabric woven from the soft, pale calcareite rock. The Sassi districts are a breathtaking sight, a cascading labyrinth of dwellings that appear to be both a part of the mountain and a masterpiece of human design. These are not mere caves, but an entire urban ecosystem carved by hand over countless generations, with intricate facades, winding streets, and quiet piazzas all emerging from the living stone. The genius of the Sassi lies in its perfect adaptation. The thick rock provided natural insulation, keeping homes cool in the scorching summer and retaining warmth during the chilly winters. Rooftops of one dwelling became the streets for those above, and a sophisticated system of channels captured precious rainwater, directing it into deep cisterns that sustained the community. Life here was deeply integrated, a continuous cycle of human habitation existing in a delicate, sustainable balance with the environment. Yet this ancient harmony was tragically broken in the 1950s. The Italian government, confronting widespread poverty and a lack of modern sanitation, declared the Sassi a national disgrace and forcibly evacuated its residents. For decades, this stone city stood silent and abandoned, a forgotten relic of a past many were eager to leave behind, but the story did not end there. A profound shift in perspective saw the Sassi not as a place of shame, but as a monument of unparalleled cultural heritage. A monumental restoration effort began, breathing new life into the old stone. Today, the Sassi di Matara is a UNESCO World Heritage Site, its ancient caves transformed into elegant homes, boutique hotels, and cultural centers. The same chambers that once echoed with the sounds of daily life for Neolithic families now host visitors from around the globe. This remarkable rebirth poses a powerful question for our own future. In an age of resource scarcity and environmental challenge, does the ancient, earth-sheltered wisdom of the Sassi offer a blueprint for a more sustainable way of living? The silent gaze of the Moai statues has long held the world's wonder, but the real story of Easter Island lies beneath their feet. At the quarry of Rono Roroku, the landscape tells a haunting tale of ambition interrupted. The volcanic hillside is not simply a workshop, it is a graveyard of giants with hundreds of statues in various states of completion, many appearing as mere heads staring blankly from the soil. For generations, this led to the belief that the Moai were only colossal heads. Recent archaeological work, however, has uncovered a stunning truth. The heads are merely the tip of the iceberg. Carefully excavating around the upright figures revealed that they possess immense, fully carved torsos, some descending over 7 meters into the ground. These buried bodies are adorned with intricate petroglyphs, delicate carvings of symbols and figures that were never meant to be seen, yet were meticulously etched into the stone before the statues were ever raised. Why would a civilization invest such incredible effort in artwork only to deliberately hide it from view? The answer seems to be written in the land itself. The very act of raising these giants may have triggered their downfall. The process likely involved moving the multi-ton statues on wooden sleds and rollers, an endeavor that would have consumed vast quantities of the island's precious timber. As the forests disappeared, the soil eroded, and the island's ability to support a large population collapsed. The statues, slowly succumbing to landslides and shifting earth, were gradually reclaimed by the very hill they were carved from. The buried petroglyphs, then, are not hidden art but a testament to a sudden and catastrophic halt. They represent a cultural project frozen in time, a final, beautiful act of creation before the society that birthed them could no longer sustain their ambition. The moai are not just monuments, they are a cautionary tale carved in stone, a powerful reminder that even the grandest human achievements are ultimately subject to the delicate balance of the world that supports them. While the pyramids of Egypt and the ziggurats of Mesopotamia reached for the heavens, the true marvel of the Indus Valley lay hidden beneath the streets of its great cities. In the meticulously planned grids of Mohenjo-Daro and Harappa, a quiet revolution in urban living was taking place, one that was engineered not for the gods but for the health of every single citizen. This civilization's genius was not etched into towering monuments, but flowed through a labyrinth of covered drains and chutes built directly under the feet of its people. Imagine walking down one of these ancient streets, your path clean and dry, while just below the surface, a sophisticated network of brick-lined channels carried waste away from the city. This was the world's first known urban sanitation system, a feat of practical engineering that would not be matched for millennia. Every house was connected to this subterranean web, featuring dedicated bathing areas and toilets that drained directly into the main sewers. The foresight is staggering. This was not a luxury for the elite, but a standard feature of urban life, demonstrating a collective concern for public well-being that was unprecedented in the ancient world. This hidden infrastructure was the silent cornerstone of their entire society. It allowed for dense urban populations to thrive without the plagues that would later haunt medieval European cities. By managing waste so effectively, they controlled the spread of waterborne illness, creating a standard of urban hygiene that rivaled, and in many ways surpassed, anything seen in Egypt or Mesopotamia at the time. Their legacy is a powerful testament to a different kind of greatness, one measured not in the height of their temples, but in the depth of their foresight. It forces us to ask, what is the true mark of an advanced civilization? Is it the grandeur of its monuments, or the quiet, life-sustaining wisdom running beneath its streets? Our journey through these hidden realms uncovers a universal human impulse, a story written not in grand monuments, but in the quiet dark beneath our feet. It is a narrative of breathtaking ingenuity, profound spirituality, and the relentless will to survive. From the defensive metropolis of Derinkuyu, where entire populations could vanish from sight, to the resonant chambers of Malta's Hypogeum, where sound itself was harnessed to explore consciousness, our ancestors saw the earth as a resource and a sacred canvas. They built downward to seek sanctuary from conflict, to commune with deities, to master the life-giving flow of water, and to confront the great mystery of what lies beyond. These subterranean spaces challenge the simple, linear narrative of history, reminding us that the past is not a single story, but a complex tapestry woven with many layers, both literal and metaphorical. As ground-penetrating radar and other technologies grant us ever clearer vision into the soil, who can say what other lost worlds await a chance discovery, waiting to share their secrets? The next time you walk through the streets of an ancient city, pause for a moment. Remember that the greatest stories are not always written on the walls that surround you, but may be hidden in plain sight, resting silently just beneath the soles of your shoes. If this exploration into history's hidden corners has captivated you, consider subscribing for more journeys into the forgotten past. We would love to hear which of these subterranean worlds fascinates you most, so please share your thoughts in the comments below.